I'm Dennis Marr. I'm one of the co-presidents of the League of Women Voters of Monterey. When we're planning our talks, the standard remark is that water really brings people out, and that's certainly true. So one of the remarkable things about this presentation, we have three very knowledgeable people, Janet Brennan, Gail Morton, and George Riley, and this is homegrown talent. These are all members of the League of Women Voters. I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves to tell you what they would like about their backgrounds and such. So we're going to start with Janet Brennan, who's going to give us an overview of all the different jurisdictions that pay attention to water.
Thank you, Dennis. I got involved in the water my senior year at Cal. Sorry, Michael. Doing research on the Central Valley Project and the 160-acre land limitation. Over the 60 years I have been involved in water. I've been involved both as a professional and a volunteer, and helped lead the effort for a portfolio project for the Peninsula Water Supply Project. And in 2014, when the legislature passed the Groundwater Sustainability Act, I became involved in the formation of the local agency. And I'm now chair as the one environmental rep on that 11-member board. Over the years, I have observed that people are really confused about water. And I think after I do my kind of academic outline of who's involved, it will be very clear why people are confused. After I do the who's involved, George and Gail will do more down-to-earth presentation on what's involved. So I'm going to cover federal, state, and local agencies, and there are 23 agencies at some level involved in water. And listening to the introductions, I left off one, and so initially I had 22, now I have 23, and I'll cover that. Bob will appreciate this. At the federal level, the United States Environmental Protection Agency oversees the implementation of the Clean Water and Safe Drinking Act and establishes water quality standards for drinking water and wastewater discharges to water bodies. The next agency involved is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they protect endangered plants, animals, and some aquatic species, such as per the Endangered Species Act, such as the steelhead. The National Marine Fish Services, NOAA, protects endangered species in streams, rivers, and oceans per the Endangered Species Act. The Bureau of Reclamation oversees water management, builds and oversees projects such as the Central Valley Project. And in the 1980s, the Pajaro Water Management Agency was actually considering requesting an allocation from the Central Valley Water Project. And that's a federal project, it's not the state project. And then there's the Colorado River. The federal government is involved with the states trying to address the current overuse of the Colorado River, and that's kind of not going very far right at this moment. In California, there are 5 agencies involved in water. There's the California Environmental Protection Agency. It's the umbrella agency that oversees State Water Resources Control Board, among other environmental departments. There's the State Water Resources Control Board, the SWRCB. It implements the Federal Clean Water Act and approves water quality control programs in conjunction with the regional water quality control boards and the State Water Resource Control Board Division of Drinking Water, which regulates public water systems, oversees surface water rights, licenses, and permits, and has primary responsibility for the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Third, there's the Department of Water Resources. It has primary responsibility for implementing the Salinas Groundwater Management Act and provides oversight of dam safety, statewide flood preparedness, and emergency management and water supply projects, such as the State Water Board project. Then there's the Regional Water Quality Control Board. It implements water quality standards and other aspects. And finally, there's the California Public Utility Commission, which implements water fees for regulated water agencies and considers approval of water supply projects. In terms of regional and local projects, there are 11 different agencies. There's the Monterey County Water Resource Agency, a countywide special district. It provides flood control and implements water supply projects like dams and diversion facilities such as the Castroville Seawater Intrusion Project. There are cities. They develop, operate, and maintain water systems. Locally, Seaside operates a water system with within a portion of the city. San City has a small desal system, and Gonzales, Soledad, and Greenfield have their own municipal systems. Most other cities have franchise agreements with systems, with the exception of the Marina and the former Fort Ord areas. Then there's the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. In the Carmel watershed, it manages water supply and riparian resources, issues water permit concurrent with building permits, implements water conservation programs, and develops water supply projects in cooperation with CalAM and other agencies. For example, the Aquifer Storage and Recovery Program and Pure Water Monterey 1. And there's the Salinas Valley Groundwater Management Agency. It implements SIGMA through their groundwater sustainability plans for the 6 Salinas Valley subbasins. It co-manages the Forebay subbasin and the Arroyo Seco GSA. Then there's the Marina Coast Water District, which is also a groundwater sustainability agency. It manages water supply, implements water conservation programs, and Sigma in the Monterey Subbasin. It's co-managed with the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Then there's CalAm, which distributes water supply to the Monterey Peninsula and develops water supply projects. There's Monterey One Water, formerly known as the Monterey Regional Water Pollution Control Agency. It treats wastewater from the peninsula cities, Marina, Castroville, and Salinas, and developed the Monterey County Water Recycling Project Treatment Plant, CSIP, and the Salinas River Diversion Facility. Developed the Pure Water Management Project and the Advanced Treatment Facility with the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. Then there's Alcoa Water Service and California Water Service. These are CPUC regulated utilities and supply water to Salinas area projects and implement water conservation plans. There's the Monterey County Department of Environmental Health. It has authority over well permitting domestic water systems under 199 connections and domestic wells. Then there's the Seaside Special Water Master. It assumes compliance with the court order for the Seaside Basin adjudication and related requirements. And as an adjudicated basin, it reports to DWR and Sigma. And the one I forgot was the Carmel Sanitation District, which reclaims water and provides reclaimed water for the golf courses in Pebble Beach. So that's all. With 23 agencies involved in water planning, you can readily understand why the community is confused and is very, very complex. I failed to mention that this list was developed in cooperation with Sarah Hargrave, who is both a league member and staff member to the Salinas Valley Basin GSA. So that is the overview. Legal issues are identified on the handout that I provided at each table. And now we have a chance to hear some real-world projects. Gail is next. Gail is an attorney, has been on the Marina City Council, and is now president of the Marina Coast Water District. Gail.
Am I good? And I'm a big fan of Janet Brennan. So I'm Gail Morton. I'm currently president of Marina Coast Water District Board. My perspective is on my one agency and the role that we play on the Monterey Peninsula, in the region, and in the state of California. First of all is that Marina Coast Water District is an independent special district. We are a county water district. We provide water, we provide wastewater collection, and we provide recycled water. Those are our functions that we do on a day-to-day basis. We have a 24.6 square mile service area. We also are a GSA, a Groundwater Sustainability Agency, over the Monterey Basin and the 18400 aquifer. Those of you that are local will recognize this as, in essence, the city of Marina to the north and the entirety of the former Fort Ord. That is where we serve. So what do we see as our major objectives as the water agency is protect our current water. Don't overdraft the basin. Make sure it is a sustainable resource available for us to serve to our customers and to be a partner in the community in serving the community. And also develop future water supply as demand increases. We know there's going to be the need for additional water. Those are our overarching goals. Okay, so who do we serve? Again, former Fort Ord, Encompass. So we had the city of Marina when Marina Coast Water District was first formed. When the base closed, the Army transferred all of its infrastructure and the water rights to the outline of the former Fort Ord. So we serve a portion of Seaside, a portion of Delray Oaks. I'm not going to read this all, but you can see we have CSUMB, UC, we do the water for the Army and the DOD and the Department of the Interior, which is the Bureau of Land Management at the Fort Ord National Monument. That's a lot of territory. So we currently have 41,000 customers. The connections for our water, sewer, recycled water connections. Recycled water, initially we just had one customer, which was the Bayonet Golf Course, and that has expanded and will continue to expand. This is the part I want you to read. Water rights. So we have the right to pump in the groundwater, the Salinas Valley Basin, 11,040 acre feet per year. We also have the right to recycled water in that amount, and our wastewater, which is the effluent that goes back to M1 water for cleaning, we have the right to recapture that back. That's the 4.22 million gallons per day. And we also have a desal plant currently not operating, but we are refurbishing it and will resurrect it. It will add 300 acre feet per year to our water supply. And because that's not from the basin, it can be exported to other jurisdictions. This is just how big we are. Read it, capture it. It's a lot of responsibility. Move on, next slide. But I did want to give a shout out to all the workers that make us so successful. Okay, so I just told you we had the right for 11,000 plus acre feet per year. There it is. And this is what we're currently pumping. See the difference? So we're in good shape. That's what I want you to read from this slide. Thank you for the applause. Okay, so it looks like we have lots of water, but let's go just back to a little bit, because I know this is where a lot of us in jurisdictions, I used to serve on the City of Marina's Council and the Fort Ord Reuse Authority Board. When the base closed, there was this transfer of water. 9,000 acre feet was what the base reuse plan is calling for. And there's a limitation from the aquifer of 6,600 acre feet per year. And this is what makes everybody panic, is then when FORA existed, there was an allocation between all those land use jurisdictions. See this? Mm-hmm. So find your city. That portion of your city on former Fort Ord has this much water, that's an acre feet per year, for their developments. And this is where we are. Also, I just wanted to show you the Army retained 1562. That's why it only adds up to 4689, and Marina Coast Water District 348. So this slide, if you're in a jurisdiction that has land in former Fort Ord, you'll want to bookmark that slide. The other constraint on development, if your jurisdiction is who we serve, is there was a resolution with the Sierra Club and FORA capping the number of homes, new homes, that could be built on the land in the former Fort Ord. And that number, right there, 6,160 homes. The development of Fort Ord was water constrained. So that's how everybody looked at everything when FORA existed. And that is the cap of homes. This, FORA left. Marina Coast Water District abides by this limitation that we will not provide water from the aquifer. We can provide water from other sources for the house number 6,161. Okay, we have to have other water sources. Remember my first slide, future water supply. That's why that's also a focus, because these jurisdictions are running out of their allocation. Okay, we're trying to be ready. Here's our current house count. This is as current as my staff could give. 3,821 homes. So we still have a ways. We still have a ways to our water cap, and we still have a ways to our housing cap. But this is often argued. This is just how big we are. We have a $50 million budget. This year we have allocated to our capital improvement projects $22.6 million. We had some carryover from last year moving forward, so we're currently working on about $35 million worth of capital improvement projects. And to run, repair, maintain our assets, facilities, pay staff, we need that much money. And we get our money from sources, our ratepayers, development fees, grants, different as you go through it. One thing I did want to point out that as a GSA, we also have projects that we're currently installing monitoring wells. I think we're installing three right now on the former Fort Ord. So we'll get to what those monitoring wells are supposed to be monitoring. But that CIP, Capital Improvement Program, for the next 5 years has $100 million in it. That doesn't mean we have the funds. It means those are the projects that we are going to try to fund and develop. And our project, our own capital improvement program, is $425 million in the next 10 years. Big plans. Okay, this was a nice slide. Janet just went through how we interrelate and the different agencies, and these are other local agencies that we interrelate with. So the Joint Powers Authority, the Groundwater Sustainability Agency for the Salinas Valley, we are in a coordination agreement with our GSA and their GSA. That's how we coordinate. Monterey One Water, we own the transmission and the storage. They own the plant for the recycled water. They also take our sewage. Okay, we're all talking about GSAs. What is it? Groundwater sustainability. This is the basin. This is a nice, pretty graphic of the Salinas Valley Basin. It is dependent upon rainfall, surface water, groundwater storage. So when it rains, we want the water to seep into the ground and replenish the aquifers. That's what it looks like. So as a groundwater sustainability agency, ours is this purple Marina Ord area. That's what we're responsible for, in coordination with the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, which is the 18400 aquifer to the north and to the east. Corral de Tierra, they are managing that in coordination with Marina Coast Water District. And then to the south, that's the Seaside Subbasin. This is a good map if you're trying to place where you are in relation to MCWD, in relation to the county. And you can see that kind of overlays the former Fort Ord from what's in the purple going south. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to prevent undesirable results. We're trying to maintain this water to be sustainable for today and into the future. It's a huge responsibility. And these are what the state of California has directed us, that these are all bad things. Lowering the groundwater levels, reduction of groundwater storage. See this cow's head that's green? It always looks like a cow's head to me. That's a map of the progression of seawater intrusion over time. So the primary undesirable results in our basin and with the Salinas Valley Groundwater Basin is the lowering of groundwater levels in the aquifers and seawater intrusion. This slide I completely misinterpreted until I talked with Ram, our general manager. I'm going, wow, we have a lowering in our storage, in our water levels. Actually, this was very interesting because what this is showing is that we had a drought and we declined between 1986 and 1992. That's where that yellow shows that it came back up. The aquifer is recovering. It's actually healthy that we see that recovery. And you see that pattern through 3 different droughts: 86, 92, 2006, 2010, 2011, 2017. Where we're more in a crisis is in the deep aquifer, the 900-foot aquifer, doesn't recharge as readily. 180 aquifer, seawater intrusion, again, the color is not concentration of salts, that is years. So you have the map, I know it's hard not to, but if you go to our website, I'm sure you'll find this. But you can see over year, we have seawater intruding further and further towards Salinas. And then also in the 400-foot aquifer. This is an issue. And as a groundwater sustainability agency, our goal is trying to keep it back to the level of 2014. We're doing a lot of work. We're doing a lot of studies. There's not a lot of funding as yet. We just are, as I said, we're putting in 3 monitoring wells to make sure that we're keeping our water levels correct, because we may have to decline what we're pumping if it's having additional salinity. So this is just the acreage. I thought this was an interesting slide, and I threw it in here for general knowledge when you're looking at how much acres. In the Monterey Subbasin, the purple, that's a total of 38,641 acres. This is a good slide for your reference. Those of you, a lot of you are elected, use it. Okay, this, I know George is going to get into this, so I was setting this up a little bit. So when we're talking about groundwater sustainability, we're trying to figure out, okay, Marina Coast, what are you responsible for? We have a huge responsibility to keep the basin healthy. What are we taking, that 3,000 plus acre feet per year? When you look at this comparison of who's doing the maximum pumping in these 4 basins, it's agriculture. Urban water use is about 17% of the total pumping from the aquifer. But we still have the responsibility, and we need to partner with everybody that's pumping to make sure we're protecting the water sources for the future. I'm just showing it to you in a different way. Some of us are visually different, how we proceed. Agriculture, so water use by sector, that's another way that you can see. So this is from groundwater by sector, what's coming out. And then agricultural water, what they rely on, groundwater versus surface water. Surface water is the rain, the runoff from the river, and recycled water. Oh, I guess I should have told you that the total water use is 228,679 acre feet per year. That's a huge number. But when you look at what urban use is, that's what I'm trying to have you register. Okay, so future water supply, conservation and efficiencies. We need to rely more on recycled water. We need to do demand management. So if some aquifer is dropping too low, we need to not pump so much from that aquifer. We need to also look for new sources of new water. Okay, so this is the work. So first of all, conservation efficiencies. We've done a lot in our community for conservation. CalAm customers have, Marina Coast Water District customers have, Seaside Basin. Everybody is very conscious of conserving water. The state of California says by 2020, everybody was supposed to use, and I translated, gallons per capita per day to 55 per person in 2020. And then going to 2030, the state of California is telling us your daily water use should be at 42 gallons per day per capita. So in 2019, look at us, Marina Coast Water District. We're getting an A. We're at 48. We've taught our public well, and we're very proud of that. CalAm was at 57 in 2019. I don't know if they hit the target in 2020. I didn't check. Also, recycled water. We've done a lot of work in the area of recycled water. Pure Water Monterey Phase 2 is future. This is us. MCWD wants to take its effluent, everything that goes through the sewer. We have a right to take that back, clean it, and use that for recycled water. That's a future source. Currently, Pure Water Monterey, 2250 acre feet per year, and the expansion also went online. And so 3,700 acre feet per year to M1 Water and 600 acre feet to Marina Coast Water District. Recycled water is a big thing. And it's a bigger thing for us in the future. And that's part of what all capital improvement programs are looking at. Another thing is demand management, pumping timing modifications. So we talked about, you know, if you have the ability to pump from different portions of the aquifer and you're seeing the aquifer lower, quit pumping, move to a different location. How you shift your management of the asset, of use of the asset, is important, and that's part of what we do. Other sources that we're looking to is brackish water treatment. We are currently working to have a pilot project at Armstrong Ranch where we would pull water, flood the plain, have it soak down in. Surface water diversions, this was just talked about at our table also, is whether it's purchased, permitted. This is the 11403 permit that when the Salinas River gets so full and it's just all running out to the ocean, somebody should take that. Somebody should bank it in the aquifer. Well, I want MCWD to do that. That's part of why I serve on this board, is how do we implement and capture that? This permit is with the county, and nobody really is doing it effectively, if any. So that is one goal for MCWD. Also, AB 122, I looked up AB 122, and it was some kind of bicycle statute. I called Rem, I said, what were you referring to? And he said, this is the state law that also allows, just under the law, that you can pump from the river when it gets to a certain height, because it's just going to the ocean. So what can we do? Marina Coast Water District, in our proximity, is close enough to the river that we have a right, and I think we're trying to do this, is to just start when the water level's high and it's declared a free-for-all, that we can just pull, flood a plain, or inject it into the storage. So these are all our projects of trying to come up with more water supply. And that's what groundwater banking is aquifer storage and recovery. So when you got the water, you got too much of it, put it back in the aquifer, store it. When you need it, pull it out. Next slide, I think, is it. Oh, yeah. I forgot to type his phone number on here. So anybody that has questions, I'm just going to give this phone number once. 831-883-5900. And Rem is brilliant at this. I've given you a taste. But if you want the real facts, that's your gentleman. And you had a question. Yes, Dennis.
What's the relationship between water levels and seaside or seawater intrusion? Is there a relationship between them? Are there counterbalances sometimes?
That's a science question, but I don't believe, so we're lowering like in the 900 foot. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was if there was a relationship with the lowering of the water level in the aquifer with seawater intrusion. So the 900 foot aquifer is lowering, but we so far have very little seawater intrusion. It's just creating a hole.
Let's see, are you concerned with the water quality from Fort Ord groundwater, given the toxins at the base?
So the answer to that, MCWD does not pull from the areas where those toxins have been exposed. We test our water continuously, and our water does not have any threat of toxins. So we're very proud of that too. But just know, the public should know that we're very conscious of that. And we have a water report that we put out every year about the quality of our water as well. But our wells are not near the plumes. That's it?
Yes,
George?
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Gail will be back during the general question and answer. And George, oh, there he is.
All right, thank you. As a self-introduction, I'm just a political junkie, for one. But also there's a lot I don't know. And so there's a lot of things I'm curious about. When I first moved here, which was in the late 1990s, I had no plans. I'd retired from public service. I had no plans to be active. I was going to paint and travel and read and hike. But I read in the newspaper that there was a movement originated by the city of Monterey in 2002 to dissolve the water management district. And a little article I read was Cal-Am had contributed $10,000 to that campaign. And I read that, and my experience is in public service in the East Coast and in California. And so I read that and thought, what in the hell is wrong with this picture? So that got me curious, got me interested, and got me started. And so I've been started. I have no history in water. I'm not an attorney, but it got me started in doing the research. And I've been active ever since 2002. But the first few years were just kind of, but the first thing was just trying to get a knowledge base. So starting at the beginning, the California water picture statewide. This is the state. This is my attempt to interpret what it is that's going on in the state level. So it rains and snows in the northern areas and in the mountainous areas. It's all collected. For what reason? So the reasons are the agricultural industry in the Sacramento Valley and the Central Valley. It's collected this water because the water's in the north, the needs are in the south. And so, and what are the needs? These are money players. It's not just who needs a drink of water. It's who needs huge buckets of water, thousands and thousands of acre feet. So it's the ag industry and the cattle interest, both in the Sacramento Valley and the Central Valley. And then, of course, the water's up here. How do we get it here? And how do we serve the population of Southern California? Because they don't have water. We have the water, actually, Northern California. When you hear about separating the states, often the California seceding, they're talking about drawing the line at the Tehachapi's. We save all the water and then make them pay for us to get the water from us, as opposed to us just being all together in the same thing. But the politics of water is largely dictated out of Southern California. That's the map of where I start with, about all the ways that the water gets from the north to the south. I can't deal with that. You can't deal with that. You can't even see it. I can't even see it. This was my attempt to make sense out of it. There are lots of dams. They move the rivers, but the federal and the state projects, I just combined them all. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter to you either. It doesn't matter to me either. It's the fact is that we paid for these things to get the water into the Southern California area, in the Sacramento Valley, Central Valley, and get it into the population centers down in Southern California. Even the Colorado River has a part of this. It's really the very Southern California, largely San Diego area, and that's not it. I point out Hetch Hetchy just because it exists, and I point out the LA aqueduct, that the Mono Lake, that's where they stole the money. You remember Chinatown? That's the story of getting that. Look at that distance. That's an enormous distance. That was very expensive at the time. That's why this is a big subject in California. And it's not just money. Notice there are $1 bills. I mean, come on. $1 bills. Why aren't they $1,000 bills at least? Get into the ballpark. But it's not just money, it's the politics of money. But I want to take a little side trip, okay? A little side trip into the economy here. California's agricultural economy. This is the area we're in. The top producing agricultural counties in the entire United States are centered here in Northern California. In Northern California. So number one is Fresno County. Number two is Tulare. It's a little off the chart here. Number two. Number three. Who's number three? What county is this? We are number three in the top agriculture producing counties in the United States. It's not just California. This is the entire state. I mean, the entire country. This is my source. I just have the source about this. But also, look at our company. Number four, Kern County, just right down there at the corner. Number 5, Merced. Number 8, Stanislaus. Number 15, King County. We're in the company of the enormous economic base. And it's not just for California, it's for the entire country. So a quick question. Agriculture itself, $8 billion sales. What's our comparison? Hospitality, $3 billion sales. These are the two largest industries in the Monterey County. Look at the difference. 8 to 3. 80,000 jobs in California, only 27,000 here. But in the ag, change is coming.
Is that just California or Monterey?
This is just Monterey. And change is coming because of the groundwater overdraft and state requirements. It's being forced on the county. It's needed, but it's being forced. And there's power behind it. So Monterey County, that should have been my slide before that. Okay, the top priorities in California, in my opinion, but it's not just my opinion, I think it's where the actions are. Salinas Valley, absolutely the top priority in our county. It's urgent because of the state mandates require them to do some things. There are deadlines that are required in this planning process, and there's an enforcement power behind it, behind the state mandates. So that's a top priority because it's urgent and it's big issues in the Salinas Valley. The next category of interest I'm saying is the Monterey Peninsula. There's a supply problem here, there's a bailout issue, there's contradictions and conflicts between where the Water Management District stands and the CalAm stands. There's an enormous amount of litigations going on right now. Seaside Basin is a storage component of what we do in the Monterey Peninsula, the rate structure that we have to deal with on our rates and so on. So that's why I put Monterey Peninsula second. Third is Marina. Marina's connected to both of these issues. They have a growth, and this is where the only growth is taking place in the county outside of southern Salinas Valley. But there's growth here, and there's supply issues here, and they're connected to all of not only to these two up here. They're also connected to the state and federal regulations that Janet was talking about. So they're a key middle player in all the things that's going on. Monterey One Water, absolutely critical because they're the source of reclaimed water. Sorry this got messed up, but this is a statewide law. It's based on overdrafted groundwater basins, statewide. The map I showed you about Sacramento Valley and the Central Valley, they're the heart of this problem. They're the heart of what's statewide. That's the politics are playing out in California, obviously Sacramento a lot. Big money issues over there. I'm not familiar with all that, but just looking at what we have to do here in our own county through this regulation, is a lot going on. The big planning process, the data gathering process, and they're trying to sort out not only the priorities, but the options about how to treat the issue of overdrafted groundwater basins, and seawater intrusion basically, and how they're going to make those decisions. I'll cover that a little bit later, but that's the summary. So the target and Sigma, they got to return to 2014 status. So I just want to make the point about, the implementation requirement is the 2040, 2042 area is supposed to be implementing some of your plans. The challenges and the interests, I call them, they're two different categories under the Sigma requirement in the Salinas Valley. Who caused the problem? Do they have to pay their fair share? How do you determine that? What are the impacts? Because the impacts is just a huge economic impact in general. Who are the entities that are involved in this process? They have a role to play because they have jurisdiction issues, and they have interests. Interests, what do I mean? Money. Okay. Requires a lot of data analysis, data collection, and then how do you make sense out of all that stuff? Gail did a good job of pointing out where some of that data information gets translated into stuff that we understand. We techie data freaks. I shouldn't say freaks. Nerds, I should say nerds. The question, who pays for all the stuff that they're talking about? How do they pay it? Like, what's the source of their funding? How much do they pay? How do they split it up? Ultimately, and I put ultimate in here because the ratepayer is the ultimate payer. And I just don't want you to forget that loop. Start somewhere, but it ends up off of our pocketbooks. And then how to decide all this. That's the challenge that Sigma presents in the area, and it presents it to Marina Coast as well. The subbasin, I just want to point out quickly, the entire subbasin they're all connected one way or another. Hydrologies or the physical underground layers and so on, and the politics of all of that and the planning requirements and all that. Everybody knows, a little familiar with, is at 800, which means 800 feet below groundwater levels or sea level. I'm not sure what that baseline is. But there are two different aquifers that are the main water supply for the peninsula area. What I want to show basically quickly, this is in 2040. Gail is showing the status that existed, which is somewhere less than what these two shows. And I'm going to mainly talk about 180 just because it's an easier one to understand, but they're both very similar problems they have. This series of incremental measurements, which Gail was showing, started in the 1940s. The first seawater intrusion awareness was in 1940, and it was just a little strip along the coast here. And then every 5 years or so, they're doing an upgrade and so on. And every 5 years, it keeps advancing. This is the projection for 2040. It's into Salinas. It's into Salinas. And notice Castroville here. Castroville gets sucked into this all the time. They don't get talked about very much. They have a very, very serious problem in Castroville. And it goes back to who caused the problem? You know, seawater intrusion is affecting their groundwater supplies. Marina also is concerned about their groundwater supplies and being invaded and compromised. But Castroville has the problem now. There's not much talk about, so what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? The answer is nothing. The answer is nothing by seawater, by the Sigma process. But I explain that in a minute. This is the plan, the major plan in the Sigma process to address the issue of lowering groundwater levels and seawater intrusion. This is seawater intrusion. The plan is to put in a series of wells along the coastline. Sound familiar? Down here, they want to put, Cal-Am wants to put a series of wells and support the supply down here. Similar plan. And by the way, Cal-Am is in this picture. They're not being talked about so much, but Cal-Am is very much in the political discussions around how does all this happen. The plan is an extraction barrier. What they want to do is pull the water out of, contaminated water out of this area, pump it somewhere up in this area, and put injection wells at the front end of this area that's being impacted by seawater intrusion. That is generally this blue line, generally. So these are all compromised lines, and they change a little bit based on what database you're using it and so on. But generally, the front end in the 180, it's the upper aquifer, the front end of the seawater intrusion is this way. What they want to do is take the water out of here, treat it, pump it, and inject it in front of this line. So this is the seawater intrusion line now. Put it in front because it's headed this way. And then this is the, I think, they have threshold amounts. I call it here, and I'm not sure. This line suggests where they might go if they don't do this or something. I'm not sure that connection. But that's the plan. This is the plan. Drill, process it, inject a cleaner water up here, and then build a mound of water. This is a depression of water. These will call depressions. It will pull seawater in, it'll pull contaminated water this way, and then they'll build up a mound, so the mound now is higher, so it will still push more of the contaminated water this way toward the depression. So that's all good. It'll build a mound to protect against it spreading this way. What that does is leave these areas exposed. In Salinas, now this is Salinas. We were talking about things that were happening over here. In Salinas, they have a groundwater depression right now because of overdrafting. The two water suppliers for the city of Salinas is Cal Water, California Water, not Cal American, California Water, different company, and Alco. They're the two suppliers. Right around, these are groundwater levels here. The standard is 0, and then you have higher grades here, down below. This is Chular. So somewhere halfway between Chular and Salinas is kind of the demarcation point about where this depression is. This is a groundwater depression. It's overpumped. So you got an overpumped category here, and ag had nothing to do with this. This is a city. This is a city that's overpumped its whole area. They have a lot of projected development and growth areas up in this area too, right on top of their overdrafted area. They need a solution. They don't have a solution. Sigma doesn't solve this problem for them. Sigma is designed to stop the damage being done. It means put a halt to it, stop it. All the plans they have right now is to how do we minimize the impact of the seawater intrusion that already exists, or the groundwater overdraft that already exists. The problem is the city still has that problem. Castroville has that problem. This is just a symbol of what happens. Pump it out, treat it, and then send it to either ag or beneficial use for urban use. Don't forget I said Calam's in this picture. For me, I just point a little triangle. The high drama and the politics and the money issues are largely contained in this triangle. The pumping is going from Moss Landing down to Marina. Castroville's in the middle of this. Salinas is in the heart of urban area. This is where the ag industry has done its largest damage. They've pulled the most water out of this area. They've caused seawater intrusion. And now they're kind of having faced the music through the Sigma law that addresses that issue. Let's go on. Schular's way down here outside of the picture. A very similar triangle could be done down here. I didn't want to do it, but you know, it's marinas also in this category, and us on the peninsula. We have our own problems, but I like the triangle up here. I'm a triangle person anyway. Do good trouble. So these are the basic questions that I think exist in the Salinas Valley, and it's being addressed by the planning process. But even a notable, respectable planning process has its own problems. It's big ag, and when I say big, it's big business. You know, we already know that. There's separate owners and separate businesses. There's separate acreage amounts. There's sizes of property in the acreage. There are different properties and so on. It's just a whole variety of different decisions that are controlled not by a single entity, by multiple entities in this area. North County and South County are not fully aligned on what the priorities ought to be and who's responsible for what. And being who's responsible for what doesn't necessarily say who's going to pay the bill. That still's got to be worked out. But this is my version of where the problems are and maybe who ought to be responsible. In the north, seawater intrusion, the extraction barrier I just mentioned. They want to expand CSIP. CSIP is an irrigation within the triangle that helps ag. It's not drinking water standard, but it's got a lot of nutrients in the water, and that helps ag. So ag likes that. Salinas is in the picture, not being addressed, I think, not being addressed. Castroville, overwhelmed by everything. They're trying to figure out how to use the Salinas water runoff for storage in order to save the water. It's like our storage and recovery here. We try to save the winter runoff in Carmel River. They're thinking about saving the winter runoff of the Salinas River. So those are issues that in the north. In the south, some different dynamics. Cattle aren't the same as crops. Crops have acreage specific. They're specific economic reasons for a particular grower, owner, whatever, to do certain things, and they can't keep doing the same crop over and over and over again. We know that. But in the south, it's more cattle and not as much ag. Ag is there. Vineyards are there. But they also have the oil industry. They take a lot of water. And that's under study right now. There's no data on how much water they're taking, but that's will be determined in the future. They have 2 dams that are accessed. The dams release their water to the river. The river provides recharge of the Salinas River in the southern part of the county. That recharge is very active as you come from the mountain, you know, deep south. Oh, that's a whole different concept. Southern County. That recharge process is pretty reliable up to Greenfield or Soledad area. And once beyond that, the recharge hardly exists. About the only water that reaches the northern part of the county for beneficial purposes is when the rivers are up. and it's from the surface river that recharges. So it's hard to rely on that in the northern county, but they rely on the south county. There's a real difference between what the needs are. Farming needs in our county is about 90% of the water goes to farms, only about 10% goes to the urban needs. The real demand is how do you reduce water use as a possibility. Fallow lands, I think Gail talked about demand management. That's really about what this is about, how to reduce water use. They're talking about fallowing some property, rotating it around. How do you get one owner to agree 1 year, not another year, or whatever it is? How does all that work? It's a real challenge. They have a real huge planning challenge under the Sigma issues. The 900-foot aquas are largely unknown about that, even though people are tapping into it. It's just that we don't know the dimension of it. We don't know how deep it is. We don't know how long it's going to last. It's called ancient water. You can sure tell I'm not an attorney. I don't know those things. But also, the real difference is, how does that play into this factor, and how do you share cost? How do you share the cost of all this variety? So complicated? I say yes. My question is this only a valley issue? Since it's such an economic driver in our entire county, is it only a valley issue, or is it countywide? And does that mean that we, on our peninsula side, should be part of this? I kind of think it's countywide. I don't know if it's going to get that way. There's this lettuce curtain political stubbornness that still exists. And even some ag people don't want us on our peninsula side to even talk about it. They don't want to talk about it among themselves. They don't want us to talk to them about it. I know that. I mean, everybody in history has been around the water issue here, knows there's a lettuce divide in the conversation, not in the action or the planning, even in the conversation. Anyway, more to come on that. Take a breath. George, take a breath. So this is a cartoon. I don't know if you can read this. So I'll just read it. I'll have a glass of your Lake Mead 2007. This is a line order. And she'll have a glass of your Arizona Vintage Aquifer. Bring us a bottle of your finest recycled effluent, 2020. You know, wine has to have a date related to it. So the sommelier says, of course. Could I interest you in a glass of our desalinated Pacific, 2018? So Peninsula, I don't know if I mentioned, I think I may have mentioned this. The key areas also have the key responsibilities. I think the Monterey One Water is absolutely critical to all the water issues, the water solutions in the Monterey Peninsula. Water Management District helped finance the Monterey One recycled water project that now is in existence. Marina Coast is a huge partner with all three of us here. Seaside Basin is a major storage capacity, storage unit in our area. So these are the major players. There are many other players in it, but I think these are the major ones. This is their discharge plan. This goes 2 miles into the ocean. Cal-Am still has an active plan to serve us with desaled water. I'll get into that a little bit more. But they depend heavily on the regional desal, Monterey One Water, for the outfall. And they got to be some major modification of that because the composition, the volume, and the design of the outfall doesn't fit the sanctuary needs to make sure that this doesn't screw up the sanctuary. A legal term, I figure. So the priorities for the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, the priorities over a few years, add to the water supply. We've done that. Lift the moratorium. We're in the process of doing that. Public ownership of Cal-Am, still in the process, and then work with our partners on supplies issues and storage issues. Let me just clarify a couple things. I'm going to interrupt my chain of thought, your chain of thought as well. There is no agricultural in Carmel Valley. If there's any I hear this sometimes when I'm out and I'm hearing people comment and so on. I try to correct it in a moment, but I don't always do that. There's no agriculture in Carmel Valley. If anybody's making a reference to the demand, the ag taking up our water supply, that reference is to Salinas Valley, not Carmel Valley. Second, there is no German ownership of Cal-Am. That still comes up, it's out there. They used to own a big RWE, a big German utility company. They own the Cal-Am, controlling care of American Waterworks. American Waterworks is the holding company. California is one of its subsidiaries, wholly owned subsidiary. And Cal-Am is just like West Virginia, American Water, Kentucky American Water, Tennessee American Water, Missouri American Water. You name it, there's 28 or 29 of them throughout the state, throughout the country. And our German ownership doesn't exist. It existed for about 10 years in the early 2000s, but they sold that anymore. And then just for your information, the golf courses on the peninsula, all of them are they used to be on potable water, but all of them are converted to reclaimed water. That's where Carmel Wastewater District comes into play, made a major contribution in helping to process their water and take all the Pebble Beach golf courses off of potable water. And then Marina Coast Monterey 1 for the others. There's only one golf course still left on the peninsula that uses reclaimed water, and it's the old Del Monte Golf Course. So I just want to add those little things. Okay, now we've added the water. Allocations have been made to jurisdictions. Permits are now allowed. The controlling party right now are the cities and the county. Are they going to issue their permits? When, how, and under what conditions? Lift the moratorium. That's in the process right now. The request has been made to the state. All the cities, not all the cities, almost all the cities on the peninsula and many, many, many other agencies are supporting lifting the CDO. We have not been able to put a new permit. No city has been able to put a permit since about 2009. That's when the state came down, one of Janet's jurisdictions, came down and said, because you've been overdrafting the Carmel River, we're going to put a stop on all permits until you get control of that. So that's been the drive behind Cal-Am's adding a new water supply, which they continue to fail at, and Monterey 1 and the district and Marina Coast all combining to get reclaimed water approved, and so they've moved ahead on that. And there are a few organizations that are critical to the political or the leadership, however you want to call it, influencers in Monterey County, or at least on the peninsula, that have not acted yet on lifting the moratorium. We've got a number of letters in support of this. We're lobbying and we're trying to make the legal argument and a rational argument to the State Water Board to lift this. And some of the agents, it's like Chambers, or it's like the Business Coalition. They have not acted yet. The request has been out there for more than a month now, 6 weeks, I think, or so, to have support documents so we could go to the State Water Board and say, we in agreement. Well, there's some of these major players have not decided to agree yet. I don't know where they stand. We only know of one party that's absolutely opposed to lifting the CDO, lifting the moratorium, that's Cal-Am. And they're proud of it. They're in the newspaper, and their own statements are being made. This is a chart of water use since about 2000. And so it's constantly in decline. Conservation really was taking hold. The discussion about overdrafting the Carmel River was very much hot in the news. Cal-Am was proposing conservation. All the other parties were proposing conservation. And the rebate program that Cal-Am funds, but also the Water Ministry manages, they're kind of permanent stays. When you replace a dishwasher, you're not going to undo that a year later. You're going to keep that for a long time. So these are kind of permanent conservation issues. So we're saying, since we're below, and we've had a good solid 5 years of below the limit that the State Water Board established for the Carmel River, since we've been at a good 5 years, we're saying we're not doing the crime, therefore we should not be doing the time. And that's kind of the lingo we're using, but then we're trying to say, come on, State Water Board, bring your news up to date, bring your issues up to date, quit penalizing the peninsula for old history. The current history is, we're just fine. You need to update your regulations. Public ownership is that we started that process Legally, we only started in 2023. And that's when we filed a resolution of necessity. That's something, that is a legal term. I didn't have a substitute for that. This is the campaign we ran. So just so you can see it, Peninsula Water issue, trying to buy Cal-Am, the combination of Cal-Am and the PUC kind of made it more difficult for everything. But why we were attacking them is they were controlling our rates. We didn't like the rates, they're writing too many. Their taxes, decisions came out of New Jersey, surcharges, bloated rate, undelivered water. These were all charges that were kind of put on our bill. We ended up as the highest cost water service in the entire United States in a study that was made out of 2017. Perfect timing for our campaign because the election was 2018. The Peninsula, is a cash cow for Cal-Am and the PUC handmaiden. And so that's a campaign. Cal-Am and its desal, let me just close on this. The size is unresolved. There's a difference of opinion about whether they have authority to pursue a lower cost, lower size desal. The timing, it's way behind schedule. The Coastal Commission put a lot of conditions on the permit. They said, we'll issue a permit if you can meet all these conditions. There are about 20, 22 conditions. They're way behind on getting that. The cost issues are unresolved. Cost issues, I want to say, the data that the PUC, the Coastal Commission, and even Cal-Am continues to use is from 2017. The cost issues are from 2017. The entire news networks throughout the nation is talking about inflation, 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 inflation. They're not. 2017 is just fine with them. And our request is, come on, update your numbers so we see what we're really dealing with. So the costs are unresolved, and there are numerous litigations. And Cal-Am with a deep pocket can afford that. We're going to fight them all the way, and we haven't given up at all on the possibility of that. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Lastly, we'll hear from Janet Brennan, who's done an incredible job, even with the local league board, in educating us to the excitement that she feels when talking about water basins.
I will try to be quick. First, groundwater was not regulated in California until 2014. Most people don't realize that. In terms of the brackish water project, which is putting the wells along the coast and drawing the intruded water back, the cost for that is between $500 million and $1.5 billion. The question is, how's that going to be paid for? And this gets to one of the underlying political dynamics of the Salinas Valley Basin GSA. Agriculture is not monolithic. It's divided between north and south, and that division is largely the result of water not going underground beyond Chular. So South County farmers benefit from the water from the dams, but North County farmers only benefit from indirect injection through largely CSIP. So you've got a north-south split, and that is reflected in the difficulty and how things are going to be paid for. Because South County farmers say, we don't benefit from the project, and North County farmers say this is a countywide issue. And then finally, in terms of enforcement, one of the drivers for working together is the threat of the state coming in and litigating or imposing demand management. So far, the Department of Water Resources, which is the first line of enforcement, has been pretty lenient in terms of its evaluation of all the interim plans. While enforcement is there, at the moment it's not imminent. So I just wanted to give that overview primarily in response to all the comments that were made before me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If we could have the three speakers come up and, let's see, we need one more chair. And I'll start reading some of these questions, and whoever wants to jump on it can just come to the microphone. Okay, first of all, how do all these groups work together? What can be done to help them coordinate efforts?
So that's what I was talking about at Marina Coast Water District. We're a GSA, and we work with the Salinas Valley Basin GSA, and we coordinate. So quarterly, we have meetings to see if there's conflicts or what are we doing. I want to give you an example of how well we work. The state has given grants. We allocate those grants between our two organizations to meet what portion of the work we are doing. We're building a model together, watching the seawater intrusion, et cetera. Salinas Valley Basin, they got a big portion of the last grant go-around. They didn't spend $800,000. They gave it to Marina Coast. Our well monitoring went from 2 wells to 3 wells. So I think that is good neighbors.
How do you protect water sources when state building initiatives and the builder's remedy pressure for more development?
They need permits. Even though there's an idea out there, every developer needs a permit. They need to go through the various steps of those who control permits. Cities do, sometimes Water Management does, Marina Coast does. So whatever the program, the builder's remedy solution, which is sidestepping a number of the CEQA requirements, the environmental regulations. They still need permits to move forward, and that still applies. And the permits apply to safety and adequacy and volumes and things that they need for their development. But normally other jurisdictions, city jurisdictions and land use jurisdictions will control those decisions.
The builder's remedy is the result primarily of the county not submitting its housing element in a timely manner. And we're still threatened with these projects. The projects can ignore the zoning and height requirements, but they still are subject to CEQA, and they are also subject to quantifiable objections. So most of the building remedy projects are not going forward very quickly, and there are hindrances in the way for them to go forward, including the need for water supply.
I think this is for George. When you say CalAM is the only entity against lifting the cease and desist order, what about the several environmental organizations that have submitted letters also against lifting the CDO?
I'm not aware of any other environmental agencies that are opposing this. It's really kind of returning our peninsula to normalcy, where we have water, we have building opportunities, we have individuals can have a bathroom or whatever, and that's returning to normal. But I'm not aware of steelhead fish people get the Steelhead Fisher Association, whatever it is. They get a grant, annual grant from CalAm. I don't know if that has influence over their decisions or not, but I just add that as a fact.
So, but the idea of lifting the CDO, that's not what's being requested. The limitation for the protection of the steelhead will remain in effect on the river. What's being asked to be relieved of is the moratorium, because we now have an adequate water supply that those individuals in Pacific Grove, Carmel, that want to add a bathroom can get a permit and add a bathroom. There is a greater amount of water. CalAm has not exhausted its supply of water in the last 5 years, is my understanding, and the recycled water has come online. So again, that's a misnomer. It's not lifting the CDO, cease and desist, on overdrafting. It's lifting the moratorium. That distinction needs to be made so people understand what entities like MCWD, other organizations, are asking for at the state level. Same protections, but also meeting the needs of our population.
Should Monterey County impose a moratorium on any data centers until we understand and can control their water demand?
There's no talk of a data center in our county. There was a few years ago when Moss Landing seemed to be a target area for a number of things that are on large scale, but no data center discussions that we're aware of.
How are you integrating climate projections for Salinas Valley watershed into your agency's work?
All of the modeling done in terms of the existing and forecasts of the Salinas Valley Water Project take into account climate change impacts, both in terms of stream flow and temperature. So climate change is being considered in all the modeling that's being undertaken.
Let's see, this is addressed to George. Carmel Valley watershed is exempt from the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, but that doesn't prevent it from realizing the Act's goals. What prevents MPWMD from pursuing the Act's goals?
Well, we think we are. We're not limited in water supply. We're not limited in addressing climate change issues and droughts and so on. We feel like we're on top of the game. It's like Marina Coast. We're not have a water supply issue. I mean, we're not a water supply jurisdiction. We don't have those assets. We have a role to play. Marina Coast is on the front lines. And like they're trying to deal with all their issues that include some of the Sigma issues. We also try to observe, we're in a conservation issue. We're trying to preserve the Carmel River. We're very much into that. I think that the problem with climate change is that everybody's going to be taking a pass on it because it costs money to armor and retreat and so on from the exposure. And it's such a slow rolling kind of thing. I just think that it's going to end up being treated as we encounter our problems. We already have problems with floods and rainstorms or whatever the volumes are that causes problems. And the density of water that comes through a storm is too fast for our systems to handle it. And so that's why a lot of the water just runs to the bay. And if we can capture more of that, we could. Salinas Valley has that same problem, is that they have an ability to capture the water that comes. But the side effect of that are the floods. And then the droughts. There are serious problems there. And I don't know how to treat a drought, but we do know how to capture water. And we're not doing a very good job there either. Except on the peninsula we are.
How can we get a board member from Seaside onto the Marina Coast Water District?
Somebody should run. If you're within our service district, you can serve on our board. So historically, most of the representatives were from the city of Marina because prior to the closure of Fort Ord, the water district served the city of Marina. We do currently have a representative from East Garrison, so that's county. That's Director Stacy Smith. She put her name in, ran, and got elected in 2024. So if you're from Seaside, Delray Oaks, and you're within, you get a bill from us. If you get a bill from us, you can run for your position. Got it?
Yeah, here's someone a little angry. What percentage of the high water costs come from the entities engaging in endless litigation instead of working together?
Well, we on the Water Board raise this question all the time about how much are we spending on litigation. Most of the issues are being raised through Cal-Am's arguments or Cal-Am's actions. The PUC, we're challenging them for some arguments that they accepted that Cal-Am presented that we contest. Coastal Commission involved because we think they ignored pending supply options when they even approved. So we initiate some of the litigation, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of litigation going on. At this point, the board discusses litigation all the time, cost of litigation, and it's small potatoes compared to the cost of buying Cal-Am. So we're saying that the process of getting to the point of trying to acquire Cal-Am is worth the expenditures we're making now to make our case, to pursue our cause, and to have the objective of buying Cal-Am.
What organization manages Pebble Beach water supply?
Pebble Beach Community Services District, their sewer is handled by Carmel Area Wastewater District. They've done a great job in converting a lot of all the golf courses there to reclaim water, so they've been a major player. That's on the wastewater side. Getting their water, they get it from Cal-Am. And they're going to pay the same bills, same kind of rate structure that we have on the entire peninsula.
Are limitations in water, are the main difficulty in solving the housing shortage or not?
The answer is no. Water's no longer the problem. We're not suffering from water poverty. We've got the water. We got it through Monterey 1. We're getting it through the storage process that we have and the delivery through Cal-Am. And so water volume is not the issue. The water allocations have been made to the jurisdictions. That's not an issue either. And it's no longer an argument that it cannot be argued that water is the reason why we don't have affordable housing. Affordability is the problem. And then how do you do that? Build small. What are the economics of that? Right now, the whole system of housing is based on the private sector taking the initiative. And I think what's going to have to happen, if it's going to happen at all, it's going to have to happen. Local jurisdictions, government agencies are going to have to take some advantage, take some initiative in pushing a few angles that they can do. They can kind of donate the land or lease the land or something like that, so that's removed from the cost issue. Some regs about the size of housing and so on ought to be easier, therefore they're smaller and maybe cheaper and so on. So it's the affordability of the housing itself, not water.
What is pertinent is there are over 20,000 units that have been approved in Monterey County. They have all the permits required, and they're not being built. The water or the housing affordability issue is really an economic issue, and it relates to problems with the housing industry itself. So we've got plenty of already approved and entitled projects. So water's not the real issue there, and I would agree with what George said.
Are there any innovations that we should be bringing to the water discussion? Someone mentions pilot projects from organizations such as the National Association of Water Innovation. Are there projects that you'd like to see come to the county?
I've got one issue that I haven't fully researched yet, but I'm very curious about. I'll just add this to it. Property transfer fee, I think is what it is. They're doing it in Southern California. Individual jurisdictions, city jurisdictions, land use jurisdictions, can put a fee on the sale of property from one party to another. And they have local jurisdiction over that. And they can put a fee on the buyer's expense. The seller maybe loses a little bit, but maybe the buyers lose more in that process. But it's a new form of taxation that may be available to local jurisdictions to help finance some affordability around water, around housing.
So the documentary transfer tax is what George is trying to refer to. So every time a piece of property transfers from one person to the other, unless you're putting it into your own trust, or from a spouse, one spouse to the other in a divorce, that's the work I do. You look at the documentary transfer tax, it's inapplicable. That is a percentage of the sales price if it's a sale from with buyer and seller. Currently, there is a $75 fee that's been added that goes towards housing, is my understanding. And recently, the county added $10, a survey monument fee. So that's if your legal description does not say bounds, certain dictate of how we can locate where your property is, you pay $10. So that is someplace. I don't know what the process would be or what that addition would be, but it happens is what I'm articulating. And there is the $75 that is going for housing.
Okay, I'm going to ask for any last comments from the three panelists, and then we have a softball question for George. So, Janet, did you want to make any? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, and the question for George is, are we ever getting rid of Cal-Am?
Well, this segues beautifully into what the last comment I really want to make anyway. Cal-Am is pursuing its desal and their arguments for the permitting agencies at the state level. One thing I just want to add is that Gavin Newsom is being blamed for a number of reasons why state agencies are not open to losing Cal-Am somehow, or our success. He has control over a lot, and he likes desal. Gavin Newsom likes desal. And his argument is we need more tools in the toolbox for water, just for whatever. Well, that's his argument. We don't need it in this area. We may need it somewhere else, but we don't need it here. But that's his argument. And anyway, what I wanted to say is that Cal-Am in their arguments ignore two things that they're very much aware of, and they totally ignore it. And we're trying to, at least I'm trying to, but others are trying to make it. Price elasticity. That's when if you raise the cost of something, the demand for it falls. That's a classic economic principle worldwide. Cal-Am says, once we get more water, the demand is going to go up. What they don't say, get more water at a certain higher price, the demand will go up. The demand will not go up. They ignore price elasticity. The other thing they ignore is intergenerational equity. Their target is 2050. Some of the PUC targets 2050. That means building it soon and having it ready for 2050. Intergenerational equity is the people who pay are those that are ultimately going to use it. Well, not us if it's 2050. But they would want us to pay for it now. So they're ignoring the argument around why intergenerational equity is an important issue when you're dealing with long-range projects. The answer to the question is yes.
Well, thank you very much. Let's give a hand to all of the